There's a race happening all around us right now. There's no starting gun, no finish line, but almost all of us are running it. And the craziest part, most of us don't even know we're in it. It's the invisible race to keep up. I mean, you know that feeling, right? You're just scrolling through your phone, you see a friend's amazing vacation photos, or your neighbor pulls up in a brand new car, and suddenly what you have just doesn't feel like enough anymore. That feeling, well, that's the engine that powers this entire race we're going to break down. So, to really get a grip on this thing, we've got to define it first. Where does all this pressure actually come from? And who are these Joneses we're all supposedly trying to keep up with anyway? At its heart, the phrase is simple. It's about using the people around you, your neighbors, your friends, as the yardstick for how you should be living and what you should own. It's this deep-seated social comparison, and if you feel like you're falling behind, it can feel like you're somehow failing. You might think this phrase came from some old psychology textbook, but nope. You'd be surprised. It actually started with a comic strip. Way back in 1913, an artist named Arthur Pop Momond created this comic about a family called the McGinnises, who were in this constant, stressful battle to match the lifestyle of their neighbors, the Joneses. But here's the absolute best part, the real kicker. In the entire time that comic ran, for decades, you never once saw the Joneses. Not once. They were just this invisible, perfect idea of success that the McGinnis family was chasing. An unseen phantom. Sound a little too familiar? Okay, so this urge to compare ourselves, it's not just some cultural quirk. It's wired deep inside our brains. There's a hidden engine in our psychology that keeps us on this treadmill, always pushing for more. Let's dig into the 3 big ideas that make this whole thing tick. First up, we've got a concept from all the way back in 1899 that is more relevant today than ever. It's called conspicuous consumption. A sociologist named Thorstein Veblen pointed out that we often buy expensive things, not because they're better, but specifically to show other people that we can afford them. It's about signaling your status. This quote from the French philosopher Denis Diderot perfectly sets the stage for our second psychological driver. See, Diderot was poor for most of his life, but then he got a windfall of cash and decided to buy himself a beautiful brand new scarlet robe. And that simple purchase is when all his troubles started. His new robe was so fancy that all of a sudden, everything else he owned looked old and shabby. It made his old chair look terrible. His desk looked worn out. He felt this unstoppable urge to replace everything just to match the new robe. And that is the Diderot effect. One new thing can trigger a whole avalanche of spending. And the third piece of this puzzle is what's called the hedonic treadmill. It's our brain's incredible ability to just get used to things. So you get that big raise, you buy that new car, and you get this amazing rush of happiness. But then it fades, and pretty soon you're right back to your normal happiness level, which means you need a new, bigger hit just to feel that same excitement again. So we've got these powerful psychological forces pushing us to compare and to buy. But it all begs a really important question. When we look at our neighbors, at our friends, are we even seeing the real picture? Is the comparison we're making even accurate? Well, the short answer is a big, fat no. Research from the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business found this massive gap in how we see wealth. Think about it. When you think about your own big house, you immediately think of the debt, right? The huge mortgage hanging over your head. But when you look at your neighbor's beautiful house, what do you see? Just the asset, the beautiful home. You don't see their debt. This bias makes us constantly feel like we're the ones falling behind. And all of this brings us to today, the modern racetrack. Because these timeless psychological quirks have been put on absolute steroids, thanks to a very modern phenomenon. It's this sneaky thing called lifestyle creep. As your income grows, your spending just kind of grows right along with it. It happens so slowly, you barely even notice. That fancy dinner that used to be a special treat, now it's a weekly thing. What used to feel like a luxury quietly becomes your new normal, your new necessity. And it's so subtle, right? It starts small. Upgrading your plane ticket just once, dining out a little more, taking a slightly nicer vacation. Each little thing feels like a harmless, well-deserved reward. But when you add them all up, they create a whole new, more expensive baseline. It basically guarantees you're always running to stand still. And the gasoline poured all over this fire? Social media, of course. It's turned our entire lives into a performance. Now those invisible Joneses from the old comic strip, they're everywhere. They're your friends, they're influencers, they're total strangers, all posting this perfect, curated highlight reel of their lives for you to compare yourself to. And let's be clear, the cost here isn't just financial. Study after study shows that this constant exposure to idealized lives is directly linked to serious mental health issues. It just hammers away at our self-esteem, leaving us feeling anxious, inadequate, and just plain unhappy with our own lives, no matter how good they actually are. Okay, so that's the trap. It sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's the good news. You do not have to keep running this race. There is another game you can choose to play, one with a completely different finish line. It all starts with a question from this game-changing book, The Millionaire Next Door. The authors asked, what if we're all looking at the wrong people? Instead of trying to keep up with people who look rich, with the flashy cars and giant houses, they went out and studied the people who actually became wealthy. And what they found? It changes everything. And when you put the two groups side by side, the difference is just staggering. On one side, you have the people who just look rich. They're focused on getting social approval, their spending goes up with their income, and they value their image more than anything. But the people who actually build wealth, they focus on financial independence, they consistently live below their means, and, this is the most important part, they value their freedom way more than their image. So this is the real question, isn't it? How do you actually do it? How do you step off this crazy treadmill and start running a race that you define, a race that you can actually win? Well, it really boils down to a few critical shifts. First, you get intentional with your money. That means making a plan for every raise before it even hits your bank account, and you start spending based on your true values, not just what's trendy. Then you redefine what winning even means. True wealth isn't about stuff. It's about freedom. It's about having choices, and it's about practicing gratitude for what you already have. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being deliberate. Look, you only get one shot at this, one life. The point isn't to just scrimp and save every penny. The point is to use your time, your energy, and your money with intention. To build a life that actually makes you happy, not one that just looks good from the outside. So let me leave you with this final thought. What if winning this race has nothing to do with having more than your neighbor? What if true victory is having the courage to define success on your own terms and then run a completely different race? What if the goal isn't to keep up at all, but to finally break away?